Hey everyone, it's Lisa from the blog farmhouseonboone.com, and today I want to show you how to make cast iron pork chops that I make with my pastured pork. So I have to be honest, when I first got my pork chops from the half of a hog that I ordered, I really wasn't sure how to make them. I've never really made pork chops. We have in the past used some of the other cuts more regularly, but I wasn't too familiar with them. My mom made them all the time growing up, so I needed to kind of learn how to cook them in a way that my family would enjoy, because when we ordered half a hog, quite a few pork chops came in the box, which turns out, after I've made these several times, is my kids' favorite meat. Now, of course, they probably still prefer bacon, but as far as a meat dinner, so when you sit down and you have one main dish and then a bunch of side dishes and the main dish is a meat, this is their favorite. So I think I'm doing something right with it, and I want to show you how to make it. So to start, get a cast iron skillet going on pretty hot. If you never cooked with cast iron, I do have a video all about that, and I teach you how to make it non-stick and to get that really nice color on meat. So I will link that in the description below and up in the card so you can check that out if you've never cooked with cast iron. Now, it's best with pork to brine it. That gives it the most tender, juicy result. But if you haven't prepared ahead, which I basically never do, you can just do it this way. Now, if you are gonna brine it, mix 1/4 cup of salt in with about 1 quart of water, and then some herbs and peppercorns or any flavorings you want, like garlic. Put it in a Ziploc bag and let the pork soak for about 30 minutes up to 12 hours. Kind of like a marinade, it just really softens everything up and makes it juicy and delicious. If you don't do that, don't worry, because I never prepared enough to do that step. Start by generously salting your pork and adding some freshly ground pepper. This is just to taste, but I would say for 4 pork chops, I probably do about 2 teaspoons of salt, so about 1/2 teaspoon per pork chop. This will of course depend on the thickness and the size. Ours are all random and different because we did just order a half a hog, and whenever I pull a package of pork chops out of the freezer, I don't really know what I'm getting, but I am preparing it the same way every time. Once the skillet is good and hot, add about 2 tablespoons of butter. It should really sizzle. What we're trying to get is a good sear on these pork chops, and the only way to do that is with a super hot skillet. So I don't even know if this is hot enough yet because the butter didn't exactly brown whenever I threw it on there. So I'm gonna let it go just a little bit more before I throw my pork chops in. In the meantime, I'm gonna cut up an onion, really a small onion, or about half the size of one I have here. I'm just gonna dice it. All right, I think my butter's ready, so I'm gonna throw on the pork chops. Now the key here is to not overcrowd the pan. They all need their own little spot to get nice and seared. One layer is good. The goal is not to cook them through at this point. You really just want to get that sear. And we're gonna finish off the cooking process in the oven. Now, I like a lot of garlic. For these 4 pork chops, I'm gonna do about 5 or 6 cloves. Now, what I like to do to cut garlic is first cut off the bottom, then I just crush it down with my knife. This helps to release the peels. Now, you can put it through a garlic press with the peels, but I find that it's actually a lot more difficult to do it that way because all the peels just get stuck inside the press and you have to clean it out constantly. So I like to peel it first and then put it through my press. Let's face it, I'm probably gonna put all of this garlic in there, but for the recipe that I'm gonna have on the blog, the printable recipe, I'm not gonna tell you to put all of it in there. I just love garlic. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and flip these pork chops. They've been cooking about a minute. Don't mind my sophisticated tool here. I didn't grab tongs. Ooh, look at that lovely color on that. After turning it over to the other side, just gonna add some fresh garlic and onions and some rosemary and sage. I just pulled some of that out of the garden. Smells so delicious. And then I'm just going to put the lid on and pop it in a 350-degree oven for about 10 minutes. I like to cook it in the oven with the lid on because I feel like it gets a lot juicier, and I like the way that it cooks the garlic. So whenever I just saute garlic in butter, it tends to get really hard and crispy. I don't really like that. So I put the lid on for this. After it's all done cooking, you can check the internal temperature with a digital thermometer. If you're brand new to cooking pork and you're a little bit worried about it being undercooked, it needs to reach about 150 degrees. The time baking for that will depend a little bit on the thickness. For me, 350 degrees at 10 minutes works great, but you might want to check that as well. You do not want to overcook it, as that tends to be how pork gets a little bit dry. But whenever I cook it with the lid on and all of those juices, it's kind of cooking in it, it just actually tastes delicious. We just let it rest about 5 minutes and then cut it up in really small pieces for our kids. Even Micah can typically eat it. It's not very tough. And we just serve it by pouring the juices that it cooked in over the top. So good. I usually serve it alongside sweet potatoes and then something green like sauerkraut, green beans, or broccoli. It's one of my kids' favorite dinners. As long as you have the pork thawed out in the refrigerator from the day before, you can get this meal on the table in less than 20 minutes. So it's a good weeknight side. As long as you've have that meat thawing, you're gonna be good to go. Right, well, make sure to head over to the blog. I have the printable version of this recipe over there. All of my recipes always have a corresponding blog post that you can go visit and save for later. Also, if you're feeling so kind and you've tried this recipe, make sure to head over to my blog and give it a 5-star rating. I always forget to ask you guys to do this, but it helps my recipes to do better on Pinterest, because when someone's scrolling through and they see that a recipe has a rating, it does better because they know that they can try it with confidence and it's gonna be good. So if you've tried any of my recipes, pretty please head over to my blog, and if you scroll down to the recipe card at the bottom and just hit that 5 stars for any recipe of mine that you've enjoyed. I would so appreciate it. It would help my blog so much to have those positive ratings on any of my recipes. All right, well, if you are brand new to my channel, please hit that subscribe button. I make 2 new videos every week on food from scratch, natural living, and a handmade home. Thank you so much for stopping by the farmhouse.